Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dickie and Donny show presented by Business on Purpose. This is your coaches Shawn or Dickie, Stinson, and I am Brandon or Donny. Coach Brandon Gray. We work for Business on Purpose and we exist to liberate business owners from chaos. Thanks for coming back. This is episode 2.
Number 2 of
Episode, I
456.
think we said 450.
450.
456 is
Okay.
alive, but yes, episode 2 of 450. And as advertised last week in episode 1, where we talked all about team meetings, we will today be speaking on the Big Five feedback loop. That's
That's
right.
right.
So it's like
That's
the
right.
dream team of meetings.
The big
Uh,
five.
the Big Five.
Yeah, I was
Uh,
thinking about 5 important people in my life early on in the 1990s, and that was New Kids on the Block. And my favorite was always Donnie. So I've got my Donnie. You are my New Kids on the Block, Donnie.
um, it is I, Donnie. I have recreated myself as a younger, probably bigger man than that
Yes.
Donnie. I think my favorite 5 are the guys that work at Five Guys. If we did a draft of fives, so like 5 guys could be there, the new kids on that would be interesting. Who would your like
Who's
number
your best
one set
fives?
of fives be? What would yours be? What would your
Mhm.
number one pick be?
Best 5 cars?
Just a
Is that
list
what
of
you mean?
cars? That's not
Yeah,
what I'm
let's
looking for, but that's okay.
Oh,
Uh,
you're saying if there's a 5 thing together.
Yeah, so like 5 guys or like a starting basketball lineup or new kids on the block or just any conglomerate of fives, what would be your number one pick?
I'd probably say, I don't know. I'm just kind of stuck here. I'm going sports analogies. I'm thinking Carolina basketball, but that's not helpful with the fives. I'm sticking with New Kids
South
on the
Carolina basketball?
North Carolina basketball. Carolina, the real Carolina, not
Oh,
the alter Carolina.
from Indiana, I don't have a dog in this fight. Boiler
You need
up.
to.
No,
You
I
live in the
think,
Carolinas. You better pick one.
well, yeah, when you said Carolina, I was like, you're not a USC fan, but even saying USC around here really gets people's panties in a bundle
Mhm.
because no, that's Southern California to me, but I'm just a Big Ten fan. So,
Shall we get to the
um,
business?
last week we talked about team meetings, and here are as we went, and I would recommend going back. We talked about the 5 key elements to any team meeting. There are personal touch points, like big wins, right? Hey, you're a human, I'm a human. Let's talk. There were cultural realignment. Hey, let's get back to okay, we're all doing our own jobs, but let's make sure we're all fighting in the same direction. Some cultural realignment piece. We want accountability from last week's action items. We want this week's action items, and then some sort of training, right? A 5-minute conversation with your team about some sort of process or training to make sure everyone's aligned. So those are the 5 key elements to team meetings. And Shawn alluded to last week. I'm sorry, Dickie alluded last week to.
Thank you.
We're still getting used to these names, y'all. He alluded to this big 5 feedback loop, which team meetings are actually one of. So, Shawn, what are the big 5?
So we've got 5 team meetings, and I'll have Kevin throw the slide up for us on the video version of this podcast. But 5 major areas of connection for your
Hmm.
team. And let me talk about outcomes. So when I talk about to my clients, I'm talking about what is the outcome we want with this meeting? Who's involved? And when you walk away from it, what is the goal of having something? Is it
Hmm.
something accomplished? Is it connection? For all of these 5 meeting structures, our goal is to build interpersonal trust with each other. We want to have relational equity, relational connection. Brene Brown says it's hard to hate up close. And
Hmm.
when we've seen team meetings or other meetings get broken apart and not happening in companies, distrust and poor communication fill the gaps. And so for us, we want to build trust relationally, but we also want to build organizational trust. And what is so critical is that you do what you say. If
Hmm.
you're having a meeting and you guys say, hey, let's go charge the mound, let's do this, ideas are cheap. Execution is so critical. And so if we want to have organizational trust with our teams, we have to follow through on what we're saying we're going to do. I can't tell you how many meetings I've been in, probably meetings that I've hosted myself, where I've said these grand ideas. And my wife was giving me some grief this week. She said, Shawn, you have all these great ideas, and I know when you say them, there's like a 30%, 20% chance you're actually going to do it. So like she was like, she was going out of town the other weekend, and I was like, I'm gonna renovate the bathroom. I'm gonna strip all the stuff, put some trim up. She's like, you're probably not going to do that. And I
It's
was
not
like,
going to
well,
happen.
now I'm not going to do it because you just said that. But
Right.
it,
Right.
I need to be a person that says, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm following through. And so these 5
Right.
meetings are going to be critical for us. Executive meeting, team meeting, which you talked about last week, project or department specific meeting, that's number 3,
Okay.
one-on-one check-ins,
Yeah.
and performance evaluations that are yearly or biannually.
Okay, so those five make sense, and I agree with the accountability side of it. I also think it's funny your wife doesn't call you Dickie, like that's who you are. So it's interesting that she
She,
doesn't call
she
you that.
sometimes calls
Um,
me Shawnee. That's cute, it's endearing, but never Dickie. Sean
Not yet.
Richard, if I've like spent too much money and she's like, why are you out, buying new golf clubs? I don't buy golf clubs. I don't know.
Sean Richard. I like
Sean
that.
Richard.
So you mentioned with the annual kind of performance review being either yearly or every 6 months, whatever it would be. What are the durations you coach these through? Like if someone's like, "Hey, I do team meetings once a quarter. I do this." Like, what is the
Yeah.
ideal duration for these? Because if with this idea of a feedback loop, right? Yes, we need to be
Mhm.
saying what we're doing, but that idea of getting
Great.
feedback at the right times, what's the duration for these?
Typically executive meetings, which are high level vision, strategy. Is our marketing working? Is our sales pipeline clean? Are the meetings happening? Are people, in good
Hmm.
spirits? Usually monthly. Team meetings
Okay.
weekly or biweekly. Project meetings weekly. So a project or department, so that could be sales, that could be production, that could be, marketing specific, a specific department or specific work that happens, that's going to be weekly. And then one-on-one check-ins, we want our owners to check in with their direct reports or direct people once a month, and or managers director level checking in with their teams once a month as well. So sometimes
Okay.
you can get twice a month on a check-in with two
Yeah.
different leaders.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've heard, and I think this goes for all these things because I heard it in relation specifically to check-ins, which, by the way, when we say check-ins, that's not running to the hall of like, oh, I bumped into them and they really like
Mhm.
Skittles. It's like, no, that's not a check-in. Check-in is a set list of questions that's consistent every single time. Like it's the same,
Mhm.
hey, what are you seeing or thinking? Where have we lived according to our core value? It's a set of questions, which we'll probably do another Dickie and Donnie go through a check-in. Well, maybe we'll even do a check-in with each other. Would that be
We, we,
entertaining?
we should do a check-in. Yeah.
About this whole Dickie and Donnie show. But there are those check-ins. And if we install as business owners, if you install something like this, if you do it any slower or less than once a month, it really struggles to kick in. Like people start to see it as a flavor of the month type
Mm-hmm.
approach and they start to push back. But if you can keep it at least once a month, that
Mm-hmm.
just psychologically we buy into that because there's repetition there. Right. I know some people do it every couple of weeks because like I just want this, like I want the feedback. Business moves so fast. So yeah, there's actually like studies to support that once a month consistent
Mm-hmm.
check-in. I would argue with all these meetings, there's support there. So Shawn, you
For
mentioned
sure.
that. Do your people ever complain? Do your clients ever complain about having too many meetings?
They don't, but also if you run my schedule of these big five feedback loop, I am keeping my clients under 4.5 hours of meetings a week. So generally
Wow.
we're working with general contractors, trades, roofers,
Sure.
construction, architecture. My goal is to keep them out of meetings and into the work. And so we
Yeah,
want to
that's
be,
good.
almost laser-like focused in the agenda and the direction these meetings are going. Like, I think the challenge of meetings is like it just becomes a dump fest where all your leaders kind of complain and moan, and you're probably complaining and moaning, like, oh, this is terrible. Oh, this is terrible. Oh, this is hard. Instead of having objective focus
Mm,
drive. How are we fixing this? How are we reviewing this next week? I had a client that didn't want to do one-on-one check-ins. And he was like, I don't get it. How are we living out our core values every week? Or how have you seen that happen? And they started doing these consistently. And there's three partners or three owners, and each one would take a different person. So they'd split up people and they'd kind of shuffle it around. Well, they realized that some of their employees were just recycling the same stories and the same thing over and over. And he realized, wow, I don't see us growing in our ability to, one of their core values was don't call Bob the Builder. What does that mean? They can do multi million dollar projects, or they can do saunas, but
yeah.
they're big clients. They're like, we're not going to lose a big client because he had some Bob the Builder come put a sauna in for some guy. We're going to put the sauna in, and then when he builds his next $10 million house, we're going to be,
Yeah.
he's like, oh,
We'll do that too.
those are my
Yeah.
guys. So they realized that people were kind of regurgitating the same kind of content, and he was like, that doesn't work. We need to be growing. We need to be thinking
Yeah.
about how our core values are being pushed in. So it's interesting how we do get pushback on some of this stuff. But yeah, to your point, 4.5 hours of meetings is our goal because they can be focused, direct. They have a
Yeah.
point. 59-minute Catholic service, it is not a minute longer.
I love it. Okay, you mentioned check-ins and the regurgitation. I think that's really good for people to hear, especially if there's a multi-owner situation. I know I've had some things come out at check-ins because what check-ins allow you to do when running at the rate of which they need to run, not like, oh, I forgot to do a round in the last 6 months, I'm gonna do another round, but when they're running, we start to catch issues when they're at their seed form. I had a guy
Totally.
call me, one of my clients that builds custom renovations, all this, and he called me and said, hey, my keyest employee, my number one employee, the first guy I hired, just put in his 2 weeks. And it was this like shock to the system. And I said, well, why? And he's like, he just said it's time to transition. I was like, well, you got to go ask more questions because best friend and all this. And anyways, it came down to there was a relational tiff between two of the project managers, and he was in the middle of it. And it was all because of one thing that was said a little out of context, and it was never addressed. And I was like, well, you haven't been doing check-ins, have you? That I've asked you to do. And you know, like a little puppy dog. It's like, man, if we're doing check-ins, we get this 6 months ago that, man, like it's not a big deal, but so-and-so said this. And you're like, Brandon, I don't want to be engaged with all that little drama. Well, you're a business owner and you work with real people, and that stuff's going to happen. So
Yeah,
it's like, man, we could have saved this guy if we were doing check-ins. And I feel like my people have caught a lot at seed form. And yeah, they're uncomfortable
that's
conversations.
great.
It's better than having a guy
Yeah.
walk out the door. So, Shawn, my question for you, have you had anybody where, and you just had a great example, but is there any other example you have of where check-ins specifically out of the big five, check-ins specifically revealed something that was like, wow, we would not have caught that if we weren't asking specific questions?
I can't think of one example exactly on that line.
Okay.
I do want to emphasize though the repetition of doing check-ins consistently,
Yeah.
of just building that. The reason the big five is so powerful is because they all work together. So
Yes.
if you do your check-ins once a month for 12 months, you now have all of your content for your performance
Yeah.
evaluation.
That's
So
right.
like managers all the time are like, oh, it's March, I'm doing performance evaluations. If you're consistently doing these check-ins, taking notes, what are you seeing and thinking? How are you living up to your core values? How are you doing on 12-week plans, your quarterly objectives? If you're doing those check-ins, you're just capturing everything ahead of time.
Yeah.
So when you go to do performance evaluations, that stuff's plug and play. It's written, and you
Yeah.
can just say, this is objectively where we see you. I think too many of our business owners say
Mm.
this, I feel like it's not working, or I feel like this isn't happening. And so I like feelings, I'm a feeling guy, but I also like data. I like to understand, well, what in that feeling is a number? Is
Right.
it
Is it
a
truth?
number?
Is it?
Is
Yeah.
it that's right? Is it number of hours committed is not working? Is it the meetings aren't happening? Is it the project's not getting checked off? What's the data behind that? And if you have to separate from an employee and it's just not working, you don't want to go to them and say it feels wrong. It doesn't feel right. You want to say, hey, here's some things we're seeing consistently. We'd like you to grow in that. So you're
That's
helping
so
them
good.
grow.
Yeah.
Or you can go to them at the end of the year and say, these are some areas that didn't work data
Yeah.
wise. And it's not an emotional conversation, or as an emotional of
Yeah.
a conversation as it could be.
That's so good. And I feel like this has went from big five feedback loop to check-ins, but who cares? It's our podcast. This is Dickie and Donnie show. The
The Dickie and Donny show, we ride the wave, bro.
the wave it's a swell, let me
It's a
tell you.
swell, a big swell.
I'm
Hmm.
from a landlocked state, so
So we did one-on-one check-ins. We did team meetings
yep.
last week, and
Yep.
then we can talk executive meetings. I mean, executive meetings are
Yes.
critical. Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Uh,
And what differentiates, other than the people in the room and the topics being talked about, what differentiates an executive meeting from a production meeting, which would be your sales meeting or your construction meeting or your, hey, what's happening at 123 Main Street? What's happening at 378 Smith Road? Like, okay,
mhm.
what separates executive meetings from this team meeting, from a production meeting? How do you see those three holding different spots enough to say we have five? Big five and
Yeah.
not
So
big three or big four.
sure. So the executive meeting is on the balcony, as some writers have said. You're looking down to see what's happening, to see
Mm,
a higher view that you wouldn't have if you're on the ground. If you're on 121 Main Street, you're talking about a cabinet order or a cabinet color that
yeah.
got messed up, that you're on ground level. Now, if you're higher looking down on that, you're saying, what was the process, the missed process, the estimating process, the selections process, X, Y, whatever, there's a process involved in that that happened. So usually in those production meetings or those select design meetings, you'll have those conversations.
Yeah.
Executive meetings are just looking high level strategy. What's our vision? Are we on target for our vision? What are our quarterly goals? Or
Mm,
are people kind of hitting those quarterly goals well? Financially, are we solvent? Are we cash flowing? Are we making money? A lot of finances in there. Marketing wise, are we driving sales? Are we closing contracts? It's the big picture of, is the
yeah.
company running as it should?
Yeah, that's great. Okay, now we've gone to that. What differentiate a production meeting, right? Because we've said this, and I mentioned this last week a little bit, but every meeting, executive, production, or team meeting needs two things to even happen. If it does not have a written agenda to keep us
Mhm.
on track, and it does not have a predefined leader, hey, I'm leading this, then they don't happen. But what differentiates what we talked about last week at a team meeting, what you just mentioned with executive meetings, where does production meetings fall into play?
Yeah, so project meetings or production meetings are just going
Yeah.
to be more focused on the actual work at
The
hand,
cabinet color. Yeah.
the people that are doing the work, and is it
Okay.
getting done to completeness? So, yeah, just a more granular view. I like to think about it. I was in the nonprofit world, and we use the view, the voice, and the vote. So there are three types of people that you may encounter in a meeting. Some people have a view of the meeting, like, hey, me, if I show up at a meeting and I'm not in your company, I have a view of the meeting. You're bringing me into what's happening. Maybe I'm a director level. Well, I have a voice into the direction of the company and what we're
Mm,
driving for. But then if I'm a partner, if I'm an owner, I have a vote to sway and to direct future
change
money and
something. Yes.
people. Right. Corporate structures in the world use the RACI model, responsible, accountable, consulted, informed. Similar way of, I think it's a little more complicated to me, but you can use any model. I think the goal for us is who is responsible to do the work, who is
Mm,
accountable if it doesn't get done well, and then
right.
what's the conversation around it as we go. And so I think the goal for me in these big five feedback loop is the information and trust that happens here is what these are each one of these is giving a different view of this center information and work that needs to get
Yeah.
done. So that's kind
That's
of how we
really
see it.
good. Yeah. That's really, really good. Now I just want to do meetings all the time. You really set the stage for that. So,
I love a good meeting when there's an agenda and a plan and people to accomplish the work and we're moving forward together. It's powerful. And I think that the reason a lot of people give up on meetings is they kind of get dry and they don't go anywhere. And you're like, what are we
yeah.
doing here?
I don't know if you've ever gotten pushback here. I've worked with a couple business owners that are either solopreneurs, which for business on purpose is
Mm.
not our ideal client. Doesn't mean we don't work with that, and it doesn't work sometimes. We have some great stories of solopreneurs that now have 20 employees, and it worked really really well. But the whole like, hey, it's just me, or hey, my wife helps a little bit, or hey, I have a part-time assistant that helps me 3 days a week and whatnot. So in that situation, Shawn, what have you walked through to get somebody to like, do they still need to do meetings? Because that's the biggest pushback I have is, hey, it's just me. Do you have anything in that realm that you've walked through before?
So in that case, we typically look at time blocking a weekly schedule.
Mm,
So I'm going to time block 30 minutes to review my marketing with my marketing provider, SEO search,
yeah,
whatever it might be.
that's
And
great.
I'm holding a meeting to myself. So as a solopreneur, you really need to be super disciplined on your schedule to knock off the ingredients that have to happen because it
Yeah,
is up to you. So I'm on a time block, okay, 30 minutes marketing, 30 minutes finance. And
yep,
then we've also used scorecards. I think scorecards can be very helpful for a weekly rhythm of these are the
absolutely.
things that need to happen weekly. Here's all the 5 areas of my key ownership leadership context, and I'm going to knock those off. So yeah, I think it's more challenging if you're a solopreneur because
Yeah,
you are the buck does stop at you. You are the last person that has
you
to
have
get
the
that
view,
done.
you have the voice, and you have the vote. You got it all.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I've
Um,
and I've had a couple of clients that I've worked with and they've realized I don't think I want to be a business owner. They've gotten to this point of like, I like doing the work. I like being in a house. I like putting trim up
yep.
and I like doing that. I'm like, that's amazing. Keep doing that. A lot of the work we do is structuring for growth and
Yep.
human growth, human resources, growing our capacity to do work beyond us. So a
That's
business
right.
that runs and grows without us. And that's a little bit different. So when we structure meetings and we're building this, we're thinking about the capacity of a company to work beyond an owner that has to be in the business.
Yeah, that's right. And I'll tell you what, even if you don't have the desire to grow, having these big 5 feedback loops allows just that. The feedback gets back to you appropriately. One of the last things we ask on check-ins, or we ask all these questions, it's basically like unveiling the like, hey, where can we be better? What are our blind spots? What do you need from me as an owner? We're kind of like, hey, vent to me, but that gives you the full leverage at the end. And I know it's not on check-ins, but this like, it gives you that ability at the very last thing to say, well, here's what I'm seeing and here's what I need from you. So think about hiring someone new. Well, man, we need to be doing a check-in, if not every day that first week, at least every week there for a while, because they have the freshest eyes and whatnot. But all of these have different levels with them, even the performance. And well, that's a whole nother topic, the performance review annually or whatnot. But yeah, that feedback loop is crucial because it's one thing to have, well, I have 5 meetings structure. That doesn't, if we're not getting anything out of that, it doesn't mean anything. So,
Oh man, I've seen so many owners that just stew. And you remember those pressure cookers? You may not remember these. They were like a hunter green pressure cooker and had a little silver weight on top.
yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
okay, it was our.
I'm not that young.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if those were like native to Raleigh, North Carolina, or if those were like across. They made it over to Indiana. I don't know.
No,
Tho-
they're doing well. They're
They're
still doing well, I
ubiquitous. Okay,
believe.
so those the little rattle on top, you know, the little thing. My owners are like that. They've got it all boiled up inside, and it's
Yeah.
rattling. And I'm like, the check-ins are your chance to connect. Hey, if somebody misses the target and you don't say anything, that's going to boil you inside, and you're going
And
to
it's
get
on you.
really,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's on
yeah.
you.
And so if you just say, hey, here's what I wanted, here's what I was aiming for. How do we readjust the
Mhm.
work to make sure that's happening next time?
Yeah.
You've let that pressure out, and you're not going to blow up on your employee and get
Mhm.
wicked pissed and go on a ripper and regret it later. So
Yeah.
a lot of this stuff is just building in practices of
So
engaging
good.
people and yeah, being relationally connected to the people that are doing work with you.
That's so good, Shawn. I love it. What are we talking about next week?
I think we're doing unique core values, isn't that right?
Are we doing some unique core values?
I hope so. It's one of
That's
my
great. Let's do a
favorite
little
topics.
tease. What is your favorite core value that you've run across? We'll talk about it next week.
Uh,
What's your favorite core value you've
I
run
mean,
across?
that don't call Bob the Builder is killer. I've
That
got a
is so
California
good.
builder that's good vibes is one of their core
Good
values.
vibes. That's
Good
great.
vibes. I'm like,
Um,
absolutely. They're like the best people ever too. So,
I think mine would be either hot dip galvanized,
oh
which is
yeah,
trade like it's industry specific, or give them the guac.
give
Great
them the
ones.
guac. I
Uh,
love it.
so
Yes.
that's good. Okay, Shawn, leave our listeners with one piece of wisdom here as they leave.
You know, I
Um,
really hope that I have dispelled some more than just one piece of wisdom, Brandon.
to pick one, no, a different one, like something new for them to take with them and
Something
chew on
new.
for a week until the next
Something
installment
new.
of Dickie and Donny come
So
out.
I'll go with the unique core values. If you have really solid, strong core values, you don't need as good of other things. I'll leave you with that. If you've got great core
Ooh,
values, your job descriptions don't need to be as tight. Now, it's not that we're going to write them poorly, but I'm saying if I know
good.
my core value is good vibes, and I come across a situation that is tense, I'm going to think, how my owners respond to this? Oh, good vibes. Hey, let's chill out and figure this out. We're in freaking San Diego building beautiful houses. Let's enjoy the ride. I love that. It's so cool.
That
So
is cool. I
that's
love
my
it.
thought. I'll leave you with that next week. We'll rock on it.
I love it. UCVs, unique core values.
Unique
Love it. Well,
core
thank
values.
y'all for joining in on the second annual, that's not the second installment for
Second
now,
installment. Second.
of the
Two of
Dickie
two.
and Donnie show presented by Business on Purpose. If you are interested in getting a coach like Dickie or like Donnie, reach out to us at businessonpurpose.com. We also have a healthy business owner assessment. See how healthy you are. It's businessonpurpose.com/healthy. Or you can email Shawn or I at Brandon or Shawn, it's SHAWN at mybusinessonpurpose.com. So thank you for tuning in today, and we'll see you next time.
Johnny, take it
Dickie,
easy, bro.
always.
Peace.
See ya.